Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Don't Touch the Beard, in which I video, document, and then talk nonsense, that'll be this bit, over the top of games of Guild Ball. This week I'll be playing the phenomenally named Valerian. Don't know why I went a bit Bowie there, but never mind. Seriously, Valerian, amazing. Who brought his butchers to bear against my Brewers, who I continue to use in an effort to learn a team whose playstyle might be similar to Blacksmiths. We don't really know, but I'm hoping so, otherwise all this is purely for your entertainment, and what's the use of that? As ever, the games are played down at Darksphere, and you may notice, oh eagle-eyed handy viewer, that I have now a new set of dice with beards on them, which frankly is amazing, which was made for me by the awesome people at Counterattack. I will pop a link below the table at the end of this video. So, Valerian only owns 6 butchers currently, although I dare say that'll change in the future, so he just chose A6. I blind picked A6, so I had no idea what he was going to have, and he had no idea what I had, and we then revealed ourselves to each other, but in a less creepy fashion. There's a slight chance I might be running a fever at the moment, so this week's commentary might be even weirder than normal. So he went with Ox as his captain, Princess as the mascot, or Brisket, Meat Hook and Boiler, whereas I went with Tapper as captain, Scum as mascot, Hooper, Friday and Spigot, and Stoker in the flex slot. Idea being I wanted to use that Molotov and Burning to try and slow Boar down, and also with the armour to keep him away from Boiler and hopefully, for want of a better expression, tank Boar a little bit. Whether or not that works, well, you're going to find out, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, I guess. I win the initiative and elect to receive, and as a result Valerian sets up to kick off first. Also, handy viewer, you may have noticed that there is a death clock on the trusty iPad at the top of the screen in an effort to make games run a little quicker and to preserve what little sanity I have left in the editing process. Dan, I'd like to go to tournaments at some point. There's a chance I might be rambling now, so let's move straight into turn 1. Damn, this is professional. So the Butchers deploy first as the kicking team, and we go from top to bottom: Brisket, Boar, Ox, Meat Hook, Princess and Boiler. And I'd like to draw particular attention to the 2 pigs that serve as the Butchers' goal throughout this game. Brilliant. I in turn, similarly going top to bottom, go with Stoker, Tapper, Scum, Hooper, Spigot and Friday. Quickly, we've defined terrain as a piece of rough ground right at the top, 2 obstacles at the top, a hedge for an obstacle, a barrier, and then a piece of fast ground right at the bottom. Did we get this right, handy viewer? Is it allocation now, before the kickoff? I can never remember, and equally apparently I can never remember to look it up at the time. Anyway, I give 4 to Stoker, 4 to Tapper, 2 to Scum, none to Hooper and Spigot, and 3 to Friday. The Butchers in turn, 4 for Brisket, 1 for Boar, 2 for Ox, 2 for Meat Hook, none for Princess, and 3 for Boiler. So in what looked originally at the time like quite a risky kickoff strategy, Brisket runs diagonally in front of her line and kicks the ball very shallow, and only half of the scatter results will result in the ball crossing the line. Although her kick is successful, so Valerian will get a reroll. I did think it was a little risky at the time, but his dice are absolutely perfect. Scattering the ball just over the halfway line, near terrain. Not so near terrain that you could abuse it with mist or vitriol or anything like that, but very near it, just in front of Spigot and Friday. So although it may have telegraphed my intent for later on in the turn, I start the game by doing some measuring for Molotov and to see just how much I can encapsulate the Butchers into giant balls of flame, but decide it's not best to do my first activation with it. So in the end I plump to activate Spigot, jog him forward and pick up the ball. Valerian responds in kind with some measuring with another player before activating a different one in the form of Princess and jogging forward up the pitch. Looking to get the no influence ablative activations out of the way first, I activate Hoops and jog him up the pitch towards Brisket. So when you have an idea and you think to yourself, oh, that's a good idea, I wonder if anyone else will think that's a good idea as well. Turns out the idea that I thought was good, you thought was good too, in the form of these giant insects describing the rules that are being used in the game. The overwhelming feedback that I received, and thank you to everyone that gave it, was that yes, these are a good idea, but can they be much, much larger? So rather than placing them small to the side of the player that's doing, what I'm going to try and do is to have them fill the side of the screen of the inactive player. Is this big enough? I'm not sure I can get it much bigger, but again, your feedback is very, very welcome, and as you can see, is enacted upon. As to the activation, oh yeah, there was an activation. I've actually had to slow this video down for this one. Meat Hook tools up Brisket, as she is in Dirty Knives of a range of a number of players, and I learned a very sore lesson about this shortly. I forgot to mention I had unsnapped the ball at the end of Spigot's activation, which now makes Fridays make a lot more sense. I activate Friday and sprint forward, picking the ball up in the way I go, and then use Get Over Here Scum to give Scum that extra 6-inch dodge. Ox takes a leisurely stroll forward and puts Tough Skin on Brisket. I have enormously over-allocated influence to Stoker on this first turn. I'm sure that won't come back to bite me in the arse at all. So I sprint him forward and throw a Molotov directly in front of the Butcher wall. Boar activates, spins round on the spot, and the activation passes back to me. Similarly, Scum activates, and I'm quite happy with where the cat is right now, so just spins around the spot, and I pass activation back to Valerian. Boiler activates and jogs forward, being careful to enter Ox's aura, and then puts Swift Stance on Brisket. I sprint Tapper forward between Hooper and Scum and hardcast Commanding Aura, more for muscle memory practice than effectiveness during this game. So Brisket activates as the last activation of turn 1, jogs forward and spends 2 influence to fling Dirty Knives at both Tapper and Hooper each, so 4 influence in total. She's got enough movement to be able to dodge around the Molotov, annoyingly, and due to being tooled up, due to the owner aura from Ox, that is 3 damage rather than 1. Ow! On both taps and hoops, although it is reduced by Tough Hide in each instance, and the poison condition, and with that we end turn 1. So in the maintenance phase, due to the poison, both Tapper and Hooper take a further 2 points of damage. They're both already taken 4 points of damage before the game's even really started. That's a great opening move. Love it there from Valerian. We initiatize. I get a 5, the Butchers get a 4, and I elect to go first. So top to bottom, I put 1 on Stoker, 5 on Tapper, none on Scum, 3 on Hooper, 2 on Spigot, and 2 on Friday. For the Butchers, that's 1 on Brisket, 1 on Boar, 5 on Ox, 1 on Meat Hook, none on Princess again, and 4 on Boiler. So I've given Stoker the correct amount of influence this time, but I think I get my AoE placement off. So I step up and throw a Molotov cocktail at Ox and Meat Hook. My intention here is to get them both burning as quickly as possible. What I should have done is placed it just in front so that if they move forward in any way, they set alight rather than me having to roll for it. As the rolls go, Ox is set on fire, but Meat Hook somehow evades the fiery inferno. Meat Hook, impervious to fire, activates and puts Tooled Up on Boiler, and then jogs the other side of him, looking to block Path to Goal for Friday and Spigot on the right hand flank. So I activate Tapper and spend 2 influence to charge Brisket, who does not use her unpredictable movement to dodge away. Instead, Valerian plays the Brace for Impact card. So due to Charmed Male, Brisket's defences are 5s and 1. Tapper is TAC 10, so that gets me 3 net hits, which is enough for a momentous knockdown, surprising nobody. I buy another attack, and this time I'm TAC 6 versus 4s and 1s. I only get the 2 net hits, and I spend a lot of time deliberating who should I put mark target on, either Boar or Meat Hook, and I eventually plumped to put 2 points of damage on Brisket. Watching this back, I should have gone with my gut instinct. Put in mark target on Meat Hook at this point would have allowed Hooper to scream across the pitch in his activation and really shift the engagement line of this game. Instead I do the damage. Wrong move on my part. I buy another attack again, TAC 6 versus 4s and 1s. This time 4 net hits, and I get up that all-important Commanding Aura. Naturally, I forget the Commanding Aura is now up, and I roll TAC 6 versus 4s and 1s. 3 net hits, and I do 3 points of damage. I then activate Old Jakes and give Scum 2 additional influence rather than clearing the poison on me. Boar activates, and thanks to the Furious rule, charges Tapper. Crap. So Boar is TAK 12 on the charge versus Tapper's 3s and 1s is 8 net hits for a momentous 5 and momentous 2 damage on the wrap. Now that's +1 on each of the results due to the aura from Ox, -1 then from Tough Hide from Tapper. And then, thanks to Berserker, he gets to do it again. So his second attack is TAK 8 versus 3s and 1s. He gets 3 net hits, which is enough for a knockdown. So first attack he's spending any influence on. That is TAK 8 versus 2s and 1s now. It is 6 net hits. That's enough for a momentous 4 with the Owner and Tough Hide cancelling each other out. And with his last free attack, that is TAK 8 versus 2s and 1s. 7 net hits, momentous 4 damage. Owner and Tough Hide cancelling each other out. And that leaves Tapper on 1 wound. Finally, Boar uses 2 momentum gained from that onslaught to use Come On Mate on Brisket to heal her. So the fight is on. Best for the Brewers to start getting swinging. I activate Hooper and charge into Brisket, who unpredictably moves away. Now I'm not sure this is the best move, but it's what I went with, and it's what you're watching. So I charge in Hooper, who is TAK 5, +4 for the charge, +1 for commanding aura, -1 for the crowd out from Boar, and I get an awful roll and 1 net hit against the 4s and 1s of Brisket, and that is enough for 3 points of damage due to Shove the Boot in and commanding aura. So I buy another attack with Hoop, who I think it's fair to say I've either misused or he's grossly lets me down this turn. Probably a combination of the both. I get 1 net hit and go with the momentous push, pushing Brisket further away from the support of Brewer and Princess and more towards Friday and Spigot. So Ox, despite being a raging ball of fire, pops his legendary Get 'em Lads and charges straight through at Hooper. Now if that doesn't give you a raging hobby horn, frankly nothing will. So he is TAK 7 normally, +4 for the charge, +1 for the presence of Boar. That's TAK 12 versus 3s and 0s because of the -1, because they Get 'em Lads and my armour. Oh, this is going to hurt. Is enough to wrap his playbook once with 8 net hits, making that, after all said and done, momentous 5 and momentous 3, -1 from each of those for Tough Hide. So he buys an attack on Tapper this time, TAK 7 due to the presence of Hooper and Boar, versus 2s and 0s due to all of the auras and the knockdown on Tapper. Gets 6 net hits, and that is enough for a momentous 5 damage. Tough skin or no tough skin, that is enough to take Tapper out, and is the first victory points. 2-0 now to the Butchers. Ox's blood is up and he buys another attack on Hooper. He is now TAK 8 due to the presence of Boar versus 3s and 0s. That is 5 net hits, which is enough to do a momentous 4 damage double push. He elects not to do the push and the damage is reduced by Tough Skin to 3. So with his final attack, Ox, due to the presence of Boar, is TAK 8 versus 3s and 0s. Valerian hits with every single dice, spitting in the eye of probability. That is enough for momentous 5, momentous 3. I don't care how tough your skin is, that is enough to take out Hooper, bringing the score now to 4-0 to the Butchers. Finally, Ox uses one of his 11 momentum that he now has to clear all conditions. Having now lost Tapper and Hooper for very little gain, I need to salvage something from this turn. I am 1 momentum to Valerian's 10. I am not going first next turn. I need something. So I activate Friday, who Shadow Likes forward, sprint up into Meat Hook's engagement zone, and take a shot on goal. I have 2 dice due to the presence of Meat Hook and her engagement zone. So 2 dice needing 1-4. That is a 75% chance of probability. And nope. Nope. No. I mean, that's fine. Valerian can get 8 net hits on 8 dice. I can't get 1-4 on 2. It's fine. It's totally fine. To make things even better, the ball then scatters directly behind the goal. Effectively, I've killed the ball beautifully for the Butcher's takeout play. Princess activates and jogs menacingly next to Friday. You can see what's coming there. I activate Spigot, who thanks to the flawed rule is going to get +2 TAK when he attacks Brisket, and I jog over and prepare to buy some attacks. So I am TAK 7 versus 4s and 1s, that is 3 net hits for just 2 points of damage. So second swing, that is again TAK 7 for 4s and 1s, 2 net hits this time for again 2 points of damage. So Boiler walks up to Friday, and the rules to bear in mind here are get him, lads, the owner, Meat Hook's presence, assist from Princess, crucial artery, and anatomical precision. Oh, and tooled up. So he's at +4 damage. So he goes in with 8 dice due to the crowd outs and all the various bonuses. I'm not going through that a lot again. He is 5s and O's against Friday. He gets a mere 3, and that is enough for 6 damage, and I make this noise. There's second attack again, TAKEOUT versus 5s and Euros. 4 net hits this time, momentous 6 damage, taking Friday out. That brings the score now 6-0 to the Butchers. Valerian has now run out of pips on the 2d6 that he uses to record his momentum, and he pops Swift Dance onto Brisket. So with my last activation of turn 2, I activate Scum, who barrels into Brisket. She defensive stances, and with Swift Stance and defensive stance, that brings her defenses to 5s and 1, despite being knocked down, so that is 8 tack from Scum. I still managed to pull off 6 net hits, good kitty, and that is a momentous 4 damage, taking out Brisket, bringing the score to 6-2 to the Butchers, and the end of the turn. What could have been if that Friday goal had gone in? A 6-all draw at this stage would be a much happier place. Valerian has automatically won initiative and elects to go first, giving me a point of momentum, and he puts 1 influence on Boar, 5 on Ox, 2 on Meat Hook, none on Princess, 4 on Boiler even, and brings Brisket in from the back line, ensuring to keep within 1 inch of the ball. So I in turn put 4 on Stoker, 2 on Scum, 2 on Spigot, 3 on Friday, and 1 each on Tapper and Hooper. Valerian starts off with Ox, who charges straight into Stoker. Stoker declares a counter-attack, and Ox is TAC 11 versus 3s and 2s, gets 7 net hits, and that's enough for the knockdown. Second attack on the now knocked down Stoker, TAC 7 versus 2s and 2s, 4 net hits for a momentous 3 damage. He swings again, TAC 7 versus 2s and 2s, 5 net hits for again a momentous 3 damage. And finally, thank God, TAC 7 versus 2s and 2s, 4 net hits, that's a momentous 3 damage. I activate Stoker, who thankfully, at the start of his activation, thanks to Magical Brew, removes all conditions, so he stands up, no longer knocked down, and heals 2 hit points, thankfully. I then breathe a giant gout of flame all over Ox and Boar, setting them both on fire. Stoker takes a swing at the now on fire Ox, who in turn declares a counter-attack on TAC 5 versus 3s and 1s. Like 3 net hits, enough to do a momentous knockdown, A to get me some momentum, and B to cancel out the counter-attack from Ox. Stoker's second attack is TAC 5 versus 2s and 1s now, so that's 4 net hits for a momentous 4 damage thanks to Burning Passion. And with the last attack, that is TAC 5, 2s and 1s, 2 net hits, and do a momentous double push, bringing Ox closer to the Brewers that have just come back in. Valerian is a little worried of reprisal, but I reassure him that Hooper and Tapper only have 1 momentum each. What could they possibly do? Boar does what Boar does and declares a charge against Stoker for free, thanks to Furious. I declare a counter-attack with Stoker in an effort to threaten with that double push and force Valerian to take the knockdown, which is exactly what happens. Although his dice spike quite nicely, he opts for the knockdown. Of course, if I'd used Stoker's advance, I could have just walked up to Boar and negated this second attack, but there we are. The second one comes in at TAC 8 versus 3s and 2s. 5 net hits equals momentous 4 damage due to the nearby presence of Ox and the Owner Aura. So due to Berserk, Boar takes his next free attack. He has TAC 8 versus 2s and 2s as I'm now knocked down. That is 5 net hits, doing a further momentous 4 damage. He then spends 2 points of momentum to clear conditions on Ox with Come On Mate. I activate Tapper, who uses Old Jakes to give Hoops an extra 2 influence, so he's now got plenty with which to be able to charge Ox. Marvellous. I then spend the 1 influence on Tapper to sprint up within 2 inches of Ox, engaging him. So Meat Hook activates and tools up Boiler. She then walks up to Spigot and buys an attack against him. Now, thanks to the Crucial Artery rule, any damage that Meat Hook does gives you bleed, as well as any damage that Meat Hook does gives you the hooked condition, so -1 defense. So she is TAC 6 versus 3s and 1s. She gets 4 net hits, and she takes the 2 momentous damage push, and of course all the effects we've just mentioned. I activate Spigot, entirely forgetting the counter attack that I bought. So there's a big lesson for the day. I elect to jock Spigot away for some reason that probably felt good at the time. So Meathook gets a parting blow at TAKEOUT versus 2s and 1s due to Hooked, and gets 4 net hits for a momentous 2 push, which becomes a momentous 3 push because she does more damage to bleeding targets. Good choices all round there. Princess gets in on the act, so she is TAK 6 versus 2s and 1s for 2 net hits for momentous 2 damage. Doesn't generate momentum because it's not his activation, so that's at least something. Parting blow is now complete. I sprint Spigot away, although I think in hindsight essentially I've made the job of the butchers easier by giving them free attacks. So lesson learned there. Young apprentice Boiler declares an attack on Spigot, which generates a parting blow from Scum. So Scum is TAK 6 versus 4s and 1s. 3 net hits is 2 points of damage. Boiler against Spigot. Choose your anatomical precision. Spigot's defences are now looking very poor. So that is TAK 9 versus 2s and 0s, thanks to hooks. So it's 8 net hits for momentous 4 damage, for momentous 3 damage, due to all the bonuses that are currently on Boiler. Boiler buys another attack against Spigot. Again, that is TAK 9 versus 2s and 0s. 4 net hits this time, and he elects for the momentous 2 damage, which is, unsurprisingly, given the onslaught he has taken this round, and the perhaps foolish jogging away that I did with him, that is a takeout on Spigot. I activate Hooper, who declares a charge against Ox, who in turn assumes a defensive stance. I am TAK 10 versus 4s and 1s, gets 6 net hits, and that's for a momentous knockdown and 1 point of damage. I immediately use the momentum gain to activate True Git, giving me plus 2 TAK, so that takes me up to TAK 8 versus 2s and 1s now. It's 7 net hits for momentous 4 damage and then 3 damage due to the flawed rule. Brisket activates, snapping the ball 2, and jogs towards the centre of the pitch. I activate Scum, who shadow likes away from Meathook and declares a charge against the knockdown and crowded out Ox. With all the associated bonuses, the tiny kitty is TAK 9 versus 2s and 1s of the mighty Ox, and that is 7 net hits for a momentous 2, and then 1 point of damage. Nice one, Tibbles. He then activates Come On Mate on Tapper and heals Tapper up to 13 wounds. Princess activates and chases after Scum. I mean, it's like some sort of stereotypical 1950s cartoon, no originality whatsoever, very disappointing. So after Scum has reduced Captain Ox to a mere 2 wounds, Friday sees an opportunity to redeem herself from missing that goal earlier on in the game and charges in. She is TAK 11 versus 2s and 1s, 9 net hits, nets a momentous push, purely farming for the momentum at this stage, and 2 points of damage, taking out Ox and bringing the score to a little bit more respectable. I mean, it should be 8-all at this point, frankly. It should be. Not that I'm salty. I'm not bitter or anything. Friday, I'm heavily disappointed in you. But it should be 8-all. But it's not. It's 4-8. Thanks, Friday. Appreciate it. Thanks. She then uses Get Over Here Scum to reposition the cat, who's done a lot more work than Friday this game. Thank you very much, Friday. Into a better position. Because that's what you are, Friday. You're the model that repositions my mascot, frankly. You miss goals and you reposition mascots. That's what you're for. Thanks. So Butchers win the initiative as we head into the new turn, giving me a point of momentum as they elect to go first. I hate you, Friday. So Brisket is given 1, Boar 1, Ox 1 as he comes back on. Meathook gets 3, Princess gets 2, and Boiler gets 4. So due to the proximity of Scum and tactical advice, I give 6 to Tapper, 3 to Hooper, 1 to Spigot, who's just come back in from the bottom, and then in a display of phenomenal idiocy, I don't allocate any more of my influence. If you look just in my D, you can see 3 influence tokens sat here happily doing nothing whatsoever. I'm not saying that lost me the game or anything like that, but actually using the resources available to me probably would have helped. In a move that I'm sure will shock and devastate everyone here with its audacity and daring, and for sheer unpredictability, Boar charges for free. Now he charges in such a way to continue to be able to engage Stoker, the knockdown Stoker from last turn, who perhaps I should have cleared conditions on, but never mind. and still be able to wail on Hooper and Friday as he so chooses. So Boar charges in against Friday. I declare nothing because you deserve it, Friday. That is TAK 12 versus 4s and 1s. 7 net hits is good enough for a knockdown. Boar then buys an attack against the 3s and 1 Friday now. So that is TAK 8, 4 net hits for a momentous 3 damage. And then due to the Berserker rule, Berserk even, Boar gets another attack, but at no point in the rule does it state it has to be against the same model. And so Boar turns his ire against Stoker. It's not looking good for the Brewers. Fortunately, I have a bag of posh salt and vinegar crisps to console myself with. Boar is TAK 8 versus Stoker's 2s and 2s. That is 4 net hits and momentous 3 damage, enough to take out Stoker. So the score now sits at Brewers 4, Butchers 10. I activate Tapper, who walks up to Boar and beats him about the face. So he is TAK 6 versus 3s and O's. 3 net hits is enough for a momentous knockdown. I use that momentum to generate the heroic play Old Jakes to give 2 points of influence to Friday, which I should feel quite pleased about that I've remembered the heroic plays if it wasn't for a fact, the course that I had forgotten the 3 influence sat still by my goal line. Blissfully ignorant of the incompetency that only present me knows about and not past me, although past me did have crisps, so who's the real winner? Tapper buys another attack on the knockdown Boar, so that's TAK 6 versus 2s and O's. 5 net hits is enough for a momentous double push, moving him towards Hooper and Friday. I have cake now, so past me, still an idiot. TAK 7 versus 2s and O's of Boar is 6 net hits, is enough to put up commanding aura and 1 point of damage. Another attack, another point of TAK, so that's TAK 8 versus 2s and O's is 6 net hits, momentous 4 and 2 damage, slowly getting him down. Another attack, TAK 8 versus 2s and O's, 6 net hits this time for momentous 4 and 3 points of damage. And then lastly, TAK 8 versus 2s and O's, 4 net hits for momentous 4, leaving Boar on just 1 point of health. Tapper then uses Come On Mate to heal Friday 4 wounds. My plan is very clear now. I have to kill Boar with Friday and then run her away from the Butchers as much as possible, using momentum in her own turn to stand her up through Take a Breather. What would ruin this is if he moves Princess in next to Friday before I can. Butchers activate Princess and charge Friday. So although I'm knocked down, I burn a point of momentum to defensive stance Friday at the charging Princess. So he is TAK 6 versus 4s and 1s after all the crowd outs. That is 3 net hits, enough for momentous 2 damage. So the plan has changed somewhat now, but it's still possible. I use a point of momentum to take a breather, clearing knockdown. I then want to attack Princess, getting that push to move Princess away from me so I can run away and use somebody else later to kill Boar now. So I'm TAK 6 versus 4s and 1s. I get nothing. Nothing at all. Okay, the plan is still good. I just need to hit Princess again, get that push, and jog away rather than sprint. Hopefully this will still work. So in dire need of 2 hits, I of course get 1. I have to declare something. I can't declare the tackle. She doesn't have the ball. So I have to do 1 point of damage to Princess, activating Loved Creature. So I've tried to stall the inevitable as much as possible. I had a plan for getting the most vulnerable player away. It hasn't worked out. And although there's plenty of time on the clock, I think I knew at this point that it was done for, because here comes Boiler, and he of course has assist from Princess, Crucial Artery up, and Anatomical Precision. So after all the crowd outs and gang ups, Boiler is TAK 5 versus 4s and 0s, gets 3 net hits for momentous 3 damage, leaving Friday on 2 wounds. So again, TAK 5 from Boiler versus 4s and 0s, 2 net hits, momentous 3 damage. That is enough to take out Friday, and that is enough to win the game to the Butchers. So there we are, Brewers 4, Butchers 12, a phenomenally well played game by Valerian there. I absolutely adored his Ox team, and I think he really made it sing, especially in those first few opening turns. Brilliant work by him, absolute joy to behold. So the undefeated streak on my YouTube channel comes to a close, and in many ways I'm glad that it has. I've won the majority of the games that I've played on this channel through bullying the centre of the pitch, and it was nice to see someone do that to me in turn. And I'm also very sure that my previous opponents enjoyed the bullying that the Brewers received. As I know they're not particularly popular in Darksphere right now. phenomenal. Thank you very much, Valerian, for giving me a hell of a game. Lovely to meet you, chap. Brilliant to have a game. I look forward to the rematch. I had heavily considered taking Captain Fun Barrels for this game, and whereas doubtless you wouldn't have bunched up so much if I had. It would have been nice to give him a run out. Would have been nice to try him out against the Butchers. That second turn, the legendary play from Ox, phenomenal. I think that was, you could almost use that as a instructional rulebook of when and how to use the legendary play from Ox, or at least that's certainly how it appears to me. It's not a player that I hear a great deal spoken about. Certainly Fillet appears to be much more favoured in the meta at the moment, and it's nice to see someone using and enjoying Ox in this fashion. Friday, the less that can be said about Friday the better. Alright, she got me the takeout on Ox, but I think everyone else did the majority of the heavy lifting there. I would have loved to have seen that goal go in. Perhaps I should have delayed that run on goal till later on in the turn, particularly as Meat Hook had already been, but with Boiler lingering with that 4 influence. Alright, yes, I have the Shagger Light to get away from him, but I felt the need to try and get those points as early as possible. Spigot, I'm not entirely sure I'm using Spigot correctly. I tend to use him as more of like a centre-back, like a sweeper, to try and remove the ball from people and get it back into my possession further up the pitch, which of course only really works if your opponent's in any way trying to use the ball. Speaking of which, I'm not sure we got the goal scatter rules correct. Oh, handy viewer, if you wouldn't mind, please leave a note below the table letting us know how we should have done it. But yes, Spigot, not sure he's the man for me. Might give veteran Spigot out a go in the next game, see how he gets on for me instead. As mentioned at the start of this video, the rather smart beard dice were made for me by Counterattack. I have placed a link below the table. Do go and have a look at them and see if there's anything you wish to buy. That is it for this week, Handy Viewer. If you wish to subscribe and therefore be notified whenever I upload this nonsense in the future, please click the beard now. Or equally, there are playlists to the rest of this series and to my previews of the Blacksmith Guild and my wisdom such that it is. Cheers!